To continue today's presentation, we're happy to have a Veterans Administration official with us. Mr. Gilbert Lopez is our guest. Gilbert is director of our national cemeteries in Danville, Virginia, and Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome to our program.
Pleased to be here, John.
Also, Gilbert happens to belong to the American Legion Veteran Service Organization. Gilbert has kindly consented to be with us during the next several weeks on several segments of our program to speak about the National Cemetery we have here in Raleigh and burial benefits for veterans. For this particular segment, we would like to show our viewers what our National Cemetery looks like here in Raleigh and give some physical details of the layout of the cemetery. Gilbert, what's the address of our cemetery?
The National Cemetery is located at 501 Rock Quarry Road here in Raleigh, and it's just off of New Bern Avenue near the Department of Transportation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is it Tarboro Road to begin with, and that turns into Rock Quarry Road?
That's correct. About 4 blocks down from New Bern, the road turns into Rock Quarry.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's another cemetery, is there, for paupers on Tarboro Road? But this is a different one on down further on Rock Quarry Road.
Right. That's in the other direction. That's toward the west end of town, going west from New Bern.
Mm-hmm. Rock Quarry Road is on one side, and Bart Street borders the other side of our national cemetery.
That's right. Bart Street runs behind the cemetery.
Mm-hmm. For our viewers who may have seen it, it's the place that has the big brick wall around the environs. Now, for this particular segment, Gilbert, I don't believe we have enough time to go into the regulation and requirements for who's eligible for free burial in our national cemeteries. We could mention briefly that most veterans are eligible for free burial there. However, this might not apply to National Guardsmen and to reservists, except for some reservists if they retired from the reserve. Plus, they also would have had to have had some active duty, wouldn't they?
That's correct. Any veteran with at least 1 day of active duty and with a discharge that's other than dishonorable is entitled to interment in a national cemetery.
Mm-hmm. Gilbert, can the general public go to our national cemetery here in Raleigh and to look at it and read the inscriptions on the headstones?
Yes, John. All our national cemeteries are open every day. Usually the hours are from approximately 8 to 5. They vary on certain holidays like Memorial Day when we're open a little later. But visitors are quite welcome to all our national cemeteries at any time.
Can you walk on the grave space in order to read the inscriptions?
Yes, there's no disrespect at all to walk around in the cemetery and observe the headstones and just the layout.
Mm-hmm. But you're not allowed to picnic and things. You're supposed to maintain the dignity of the grounds.
That's correct, John. The national cemeteries are considered national shrines, and dignity must be observed at all times. No ruckus or horseplay or any disrespectful actions are allowed in the national cemetery.
Mm-hmm. Gilbert, could you give us a description of the headstones in the cemetery?
The National Cemetery here probably has 5 or 6 different stones due to the fact that the veterans there are buried in different war periods depending on the administration at the time of burial, and the policies, the headstones do vary. Primarily the ones at our National Cemetery are upright marble. And in a later time, now that we're redeveloping some parts of the cemetery, the headstones will be flat granite, and when we start making those interments, probably within the next year or so, the markers will change slightly.
Mm-hmm. Will they be level with the ground after that?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. That's for maintenance purposes?
Primarily for maintenance and cost-saving purposes, that's correct.
Well, Gilbert, the thing that was most striking to me about the headstones was that most of them have the military rank of the veteran.
That's right. The military rank goes on all the headstones, even if the rank was achieved other than during an active duty period. Say if a veteran retired as a sergeant and went on in the reserves to achieve a rank of master sergeant or even an officer's rank, that rank can be placed on the headstone at the request of the family.
And if the spouse of the veteran later on also passes away and is interred in the same grave space as the veteran, you would get an entirely new headstone with the spouse's name on it too?
That's correct, John. Whichever predeceases the first, they put the inscription on the front. For the second interment, then the veteran's inscription always goes on the front, and the inscription for the family member, the wife, or if it's a dependent child, goes on the back.
And Gilbert, you told me earlier that as an optional item, the family of the deceased can have a religious emblem placed on the headstone, and if it's one of these that are available, it would be at no charge to the family.
That's right. We try to make sure that every family is aware that a religious emblem can be placed on the headstone. Even a non-religious emblem. We have an emblem for atheists, and we encourage that, and we try to get it on all stones.
Yes, the number of emblems representing different religions has increased, hasn't it?
Right. Excuse me. Originally, the choice was between the Christian cross, Wheel of Righteousness, which is Buddhist, and the Star of David. That was about the main choice, other than no emblem at all. But now we received authorized emblems from religious parties that are authorized now, and they can be placed on the headstone.
Yes, you have some diagrams of them there, Gilbert. They include a Unitarian emblem, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and others.
That's correct.
There are other optional items such as platitudes, I understand, but they might be charged for.
Right. There are platitudes, any additional items other than the name and the rank and the date of birth and death are at additional cost to the family.
Gilbert, can people put flowers on the graves?
Yes, John. Flowers are allowed any time during the year. During the mowing season, we prefer that only fresh flowers be placed on the grave sites because we do remove them so often. During the wintertime, we do allow artificial flowers, and they remain on the grave sites until they either become unsightly or they're picked up by the family again.
What if the remains are not available? If someone's ship sinks or some other reason, can a memorial marker still be placed in the cemetery?
That's correct. We have a special section in our cemetery that any remains that were lost at sea or donated to science or otherwise unrecoverable, the family can request that a memorial marker be placed in the cemetery for that veteran.
And I suppose if the veteran is cremated, those could still be buried, or even if they're scattered and not buried, a memorial marker could be placed in the cemetery?
That's right.
Oh, that's good. Gilbert, could you tell our viewers about the multiple interment section of our National Cemetery?
Well, we have one section. It's not per se a section for multiple interments, but there are certain crews that, like air crews that have gone down altogether, and the families have consented to have the whole crew interred in one common site. And we have about 4 or 5 different sites like that in the cemetery, ranging from 2 to a grave to as many as 5. And some of the other cemeteries in the system have other large graves where for some reason or other remains were removed from other cemeteries, and they're in mass graves. There can be as many as 1,500 in one large grave.
Oh. Yeah. Gilbert, at the present time, the VA administers the National Cemetery here in Raleigh. I believe there are a few cemeteries that are administered by either the Department of the Interior or the Army.
That's right. In 1973, the National Cemetery System was transferred over from the Department of the Army to the Veterans Administration, and at that time, the only remaining cemetery to remain in the Department of the Army was Arlington. And there are other cemeteries that are maintained by other agencies, such as the Battle Monuments Commission, which maintains these cemeteries overseas and in Mexico and the Philippines and other areas.
Is that under the Army or the VA, or?
It's its own separate commission, and they're responsible directly to the President of the United States, and it's called the Battle Monuments Commission.
In case our camera crew can get a shot of this for our viewers, there is a marker at our National Cemetery here in Raleigh. It looks like a cannon barrel pointing upwards with cannonballs, there's an inscription indicating that at one time our National Cemetery here in Raleigh was not run by the VA. It says U.S. National Military Cemetery, established 1866.
That's right. Originally, the cemetery was established as a post cemetery for a hospital that was a few blocks up the street, which is no longer there. But that's where the original burials came from for officers and their dependents in the service at the time, right around the Civil War.
Yes, there are a lot of Civil War bodies in our National Cemetery here in Raleigh.
Yes, there are. Most of them are in a section where we interred unknowns because they were removed from battlegrounds in the area, from as far away as Greensboro and Aversboro and other battlegrounds in the area. And at the time of removal, for some reason or other, they became unidentified, and they were interred as unknowns.
Yes, that's too bad. In case our camera crew can get this, in the green canopied area, this is where the final service is held for the interment of bodies.
That's correct. It is our policy to try to have a religious committal service for each and every interment at the National Cemetery. And we do have a committal shelter for the final committal service there at the cemetery where we have a religious service before the interment. Even
if the family lives out in California or somewhere, you try to have a service for all veterans buried here.
That's right.
And Gilbert, possibly our camera crew can get a view of this too. I believe there is one headstone in our cemetery here in Raleigh which has a gold-colored lettering.
That's right. That headstone belongs to a William Bryant. He is the only Medal of Honor recipient interred in our National Cemetery, and his headstone is special in that the inscription is filled with gold. It has a gold leaf, and as a special remembrance for this courageous vet.
And he was in the Special Forces in Vietnam?
That's correct. He was killed in Vietnam.
And he received the Congressional Medal of Honor?
That's right.
Approximately how many open grave sites are there in our National Cemetery here in Raleigh, Gilbert, and also how many filled so far?
Presently, we have approximately 1,100 spaces available for new interments. The total interment is around 4,200 right now. That includes veterans, spouses, and some minor children that were in.
And did you estimate about 1990 you might be full up?
Right. At the present interment rate and the spaces available, we should probably be pretty close to close by 1990.
Of course, after then, if a widow passed away, she could still be buried with her husband, even though the cemetery would be closed under normal conditions.
Right. It's closed to first interments, I should clarify that. And the widow of a veteran is entitled to burial with her husband anytime after that.
Or minor children and so on.
Right. Legal dependents.
Gilbert, we're right out of time for this segment of our program. We very much appreciate your being with us. Our guest for this segment of our Veterans Roundtable has been Mr. Gilbert Lopez, the director of our National Cemetery here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Gilbert has graciously agreed to come back during the next few weeks to give us some more information. As usual, if you have comments or suggestions, you can write our Veterans Roundtable at the address placed on your screen, P.O. Box 12743, here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our zip code is 27605. And thank you very much for watching.